Okay, here's a long-awaited tutorial on how to mount a pre-stretched head if I send you one in the mail, on any banjo really. I have the head. I have a 11-inch bacon tone ring banjo that I'm going to put this head on. I have the nuts and the hooks, and each of the nuts has been oiled with the little tri-flow needle tip oil thing so they go on smoothly and don't make any screeching noises. Okay, here we go to start. Got my tension hoop with it's all notched. I usually put the end bolt hole towards me and have the dowel stick hole towards the front of the rim. And my first hook that I'm going to put in goes in right next to the dowel stick hole. I use gloves so I don't get fingerprints all over the unplated brass. The next hook is on the opposite side, next to the end bolt hole. And then once you get the second one on, you make sure that you have it straight up and down. Put a nut on it. Check the other side to make sure this one is straight, and it is. Sorry, I'm doing this with a tripod, so bear with me if I go out of screen. Okay, the next one, then you can start to pull the sides down. So the next one will be in between, the quarter way around. Doesn't have to be exact, but just somewhere close. Make sure this one's straight up and down as well. And still adjust things now before the nuts have tightened everything down. Another one is hand tight. Okay, next one's the other quarter side. Another hand tight nut. Okay, so now making sure they're all straight, and they are. Now the next thing we want to pay attention to as we're stretching the head is the height of the tension hoop above the head. So we want to tighten this down and keep that height even all the way around. We don't want to tighten one side down and leave the other side up and have it uneven, because that makes it kind of a trick to even it out if you do that. So next one, I'm going to go kind of the 1/8, the sides, the other 4 that'll kind of make it evenly spaced, or somewhat evenly spaced. 8 hooks. Okay. These are all just hand tight. Make sure you have a clean area to work on, that you're not going to be putting dents in your rim by setting it down on hooks or on these nuts. You want to keep everything in good shape. Okay, how many do I have on here? I have about 8. I'm not sure. Making sure they're still straight, which they are. Now I'm going to take the nut wrench and tighten up the first 4 that I put in a little bit. Pull things down, and this will make some of the other ones looser, so some of them might come out, so don't tighten it too much at this point. We're just bringing the head down evenly from 4 sides. Okay. Okay, now the ones we didn't, we're just going to kind of cinch, and you can feel how tight the nuts are. So you want to tighten them until they're about the same tension that the first 4 were. And you can feel it. Kind of like a torque wrench in a tire store. Where they stop once they get a certain tension. You can just feel that. Okay, I'm looking around. I'm seeing that it's pretty even around, but this side is a little higher than this side with the distance of the top of the tension hoop from the head. So I'm going to come over here and bring this side down to where the other side is. And these two will do that. I'm making sure not to tighten these hooks too much because they're brass and they will break if you tighten them too much, if you put too much pressure on them. So it's a matter of using them all evenly to bring it down, and then you won't break any. If you're just, you know, sometimes when you go around with the wrench you'll feel that some are tighter than others, and ones that are really tight, when I come around I just go on to the next one. I don't tighten the really tight ones. And tightening the two to the side of these hooks, like if this one's really tight, I'll go to these ones and tighten those, and that will loosen up this because these two have pulled the tension hoop down. If that makes sense. Okay. Now this isn't something that I do in one sitting. I stretch the head to a certain point, which is pretty tight, and then I will actually set it aside for a day and come back to it. I let the heads, I don't force skin heads, I let them gradually seat down on the banjo. And they come out a lot more stable that way. So here I'm just filling in the rest of the shoes in no particular order. I'm just kind of going around and filling the gaps. The one thing I do know is that the 4 hooks on either side of the dowel stick hole and the 4 hooks on the either side of the end bolt hole, and then the other ones out here will be tighter. Those will be the tightest ones, so just kind of keep that in mind as I'm going to take the wrench and tighten the rest of these I've just put on hand tight. And I do that by feeling. Like this one next to the dowel stick is on pretty tight by the feel. So is this one. This one I just put on is loose. So I'm just bringing it. That was really loose. Another really loose one. Okay. That was a little tighter. That one's really tight because that's the end bolt hole. This one's tight too. This one's a lot looser. That one's a little tighter. Pretty loose. That was really loose. And now these are looser next to the dowel stick hole because the other ones are bringing it down. So now I'm looking around to see the height again. This is looking really even. So I am going to go back and do these ones again. So around the dowel stick hole, around the end bolt hole. They're still pretty tight, but I'm not forcing them. And they're not excessively tight. And then I'm going to the outsides and just looking, you know, as you start tightening these hooks, you can see how the head's coming down. Okay, everything's looking even. This is a little high over here, so I'm going to get that one. Now I'm going to do the ones in between again, just by feel. Tight, loose, loose, really loose. This one's still tight, loose, loose, a little tighter. These two were really tight, but as I went and filled it, again, like I said before, as I filled in these ones, it's made these loosen up. So things are going on really evenly. Okay, so now